Hi, everybody, and welcome into GC Live here on Gamecock Central. Jack Veltri and Kendall Smith coming at you on this Wednesday afternoon. And Jack, there is a lot to get to here today. So we will talk about all of that. South Carolina's matchup last weekend, their upcoming matchup this weekend, their schedule for the next few years. We'll talk about that too. And just our overall thoughts on the state of the team right now. But first and foremost, Jack, how are we?
Doing good, Kendall. It's a glorious day outside. I gotta be honest. We're gonna talk a little baseball real quick. My New York Yankees are going to the postseason. I'm stoked. I see you got the White Sox gear on. I get it. I do. But aren't you a Cub? I know you work for the team, but aren't you a Cubs fan though?
So I grew up with the Chicago Cubs. So half my family, they're White Sox fans, and the other half are Cubs fans. So my family is actually split down the line. My dad is a big Cubs fan. So yeah, but my uncle is a season ticket holder with the White Sox. So we definitely have a little bit of a mix. But right now the White Sox and the Yankees are playing each other.
That's right.
They played last night. Yankees won 3-2.
I was getting a little nervous last night because I'm like, it's 2-1. They can't lose this game, and they found a way and they clinched a spot to the postseason. So
got it done, and yeah, I can't believe we're already almost at postseason for baseball. That is crazy to think about. We were just talking about that. We did receive a complaint though a couple weeks ago about how we talk about baseball too much. So
get over it.
I'm so sorry, but Jack and I both love baseball. So unfortunately, if you're going to watch the show, it's probably just going to come with it a little bit here and there.
Deal with it.
It's just something we have in common. We love to talk Major League Baseball. So as we get into the postseason, your disclaimer, I'm telling you all right now, we will probably talk about it.
It will come up for a few minutes.
Exactly. So that is that. That's the housekeeping. We have to get out of the way nice and early here on the show. But Jack, we do have a presenting sponsor here of GC Live. It's our good friend, Clint Hammond. Tell the people how they can reach out to Clint, why they should reach out to Clint, why he's the best.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do my best to do that. But yeah, so Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans. If you've listened to me and Kendall yap anytime before, Chris, Wes, whoever, you've heard us talk about Clint Hammond and all the good things that he does. So if you are maybe looking to buy a home or just need help with your mortgage, any of those housing needs, because let's be honest, it can be quite confusing and just looking for a lot of answers to your questions, Clint's the guy to go to. He's been in the mortgage industry for such a long time now, well over 20 years. He's also a lifelong Gamecock fan. He's also a longtime supporter of Gamecock Central and all of our GC Live programs. He is the presenting sponsor of our show. If you're interested, give him a call, 803-422-6797. The NMLS number for him, 71597, or go to clinthammond.com. And again, he will take you through the process step by step and get you on the way towards answering all those questions that you may have.
All right. Thank you so much, Clint. Thank you so much, Jack. That was a job well done for sure. And we're talking all things South Carolina football as usual this week on the show. We'll talk a little bit about last week's game against Missouri. Jack was obviously there in Columbia, Missouri. We'll talk about this week's game against Kentucky, another night game in store for you, Jack. So I know you're very, very excited. And we'll talk about what Shane Beamer had to say at his press conference this week. You're getting some love, by the way, Jack.
You know, I've had a lot. It's been a kind of a trend lately, Kendall, of people just really have started to love the questions I've been asking for whatever reason. And yeah, I appreciate it, guys. It's come up a lot more in my mentions on Twitter too. And I even got a text from a friend of a friend that mentioned that they love the job I'm doing with the questions. So, you guys want questions answered. I mean, trying to do my best to do that. So appreciate it as always. But yeah, another night game. We got Missouri to talk about here, and we can start there. Tough loss for South Carolina.
Let's start there.
Yeah, let's start there. Tough loss for South Carolina. A game that, Kendall, I'm sure you can agree on this, but I feel like South Carolina kind of fumbled the bag, if you will, on that one. They should have won that game in a lot of ways. Now, I think they beat themselves. That's ultimately what the problem was from that game. I mean, they were winning going into the fourth quarter, a game that you were a 2-touchdown underdog in, and you're up despite all the mistakes you made in that game. But again, I bring up the mistakes because at the end, you made mistakes. There were too many mistakes by the end of the game to where it's like, yeah, like you lost because of the self-inflicted penalties, the missed tackles. I mean, the Missouri scored a touchdown to win the game on a missed tackle. So, I mean, that's stuff you got to clean up. There's some good to take away, like South Carolina threw for 300 yards. I mean, Lenore Sellers looked pretty good for most of the night. You're not really in that game if he's not playing the way he did. There were some struggles, though. Too many sacks in that game from Lenore, so I think he's got to be better about his decision-making. I know, obviously, everyone's kind of fed up with some of the play calling and stuff. I disagree. I don't think the play calling was the main issue in that game. Now, if you ask me on 1st and goal, should you pass the ball? Yes and no. I've always said it this, like, since that happened. Like, I wouldn't run that play on 1st and goal. I think it's a good play call because it should have worked, but it just didn't. Things went wrong. Rasul Faison didn't pick up his block. Sellers didn't get rid of the ball in time. He also just didn't see the open tight end over the middle of the field in the end zone. So, again, people are going to say run the ball on 1st and goal, but also let's keep in mind South Carolina didn't do anything on the ground, rushing for -9 yards in that game, and sacks adjusted. I mean, you only ran for about 20 or so yards. So, again, it's a tough game for South Carolina because it was right there for them with all the mistakes they made. But if I could put a positive spin on it, I don't do that typically very often, obviously, since I'm Mr. Negative, I guess. But I would say
Mr. Negative.
Me. I guess because I'm
that is like a self-proclaimed nickname. Like
maybe it should be the nickname going.
Nobody called Jack Mr.
Yeah, God.
Unless someone on Twitter said it.
Someone the other day was saying that I'm embracing being the villain for asking all the tough questions, and I'm like, okay, that might be a bit too far. But no, I think the positive I can take away from this game is that despite all the mistakes South Carolina made, they only lost by 9, and so I think there's no moral victories. You still lost, but if you are able to clean up these mistakes, I think it leads to a much different result moving forward because there is some good. Again, the passing game was pretty good. Your defense got some stops at times, but at the same time, you lost, and these mistakes are still prevalent, and it's stuff you got to clean up pretty fast here.
Yeah, and Jack, to clarify, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like a lot of people see South Carolina's record right now. They see that they lost to Vanderbilt. They see that they lost to Missouri, and they're like, okay, this season is a lost cause. It's done. It's over. South Carolina obviously started this season being highly ranked and had a lot of hype surrounding them, hype surrounding the program. A lot of people were very excited about what South Carolina could do this year. And you start the season 2-2, and no win has come easy for South Carolina. These losses, though they haven't been good, you've still seen some bright spots here and there. So it's kind of a mix. Like, I think people aren't really quite sure how to feel right now. Is it one of those situations in your mind where it's kind of like this team maybe isn't as good as everybody was saying? Or is it like you were just mentioning, South Carolina does have the talent, we just haven't seen it all come together quite yet?
It's exactly that, Kendall. They do have the talent. They have the potential. It's all there, but it's just not coming together. And again, the mistakes they've made have cost them a lot of these times in the game. Like, you missed so many tackles this past weekend, 16 of them. You've missed 44 the entire season. It's just not clicking for whatever reason. And let's not get it twisted. The games they've lost to good teams. They've lost to Vanderbilt, who was ranked in the top 20. You've lost to 2 top 20 teams so far this season. Missouri's also a very good team. So it's not like they had lost to Virginia Tech or to SC State or something. All right. Like, yeah, you lost to bad teams. SC State's not even really a bad team. They're a lower level team. I think you guys get what I'm saying. But South Carolina, they've lost to quality opponents, but they got to play better. I mean, it's plain and simple as that. And I think you have a good opportunity to do that this weekend against Kentucky. I think it's a game that you have no reason to lose. But if you play like you have the last few weeks, you could end up being in a close game that maybe Kentucky does pull out. And Kentucky's not this awful team yet. I think we all think they probably are like at the bottom of the – what are you laughing for? I'm just – what?
They're not this awful team yet.
Yeah, because here's my thing. Everyone thinks that Kentucky is going to be this awful team, and we have not – I can't say it yet because they played pretty close against Ole Miss, and and they beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. So, I mean, what now? Later in the season, they might be an awful team, but I can't fully say it with conviction yet. So
That is funny. That honestly makes me laugh, Jack. The way that you just phrased that was quite hilarious. But yeah, it is a big game this weekend. And I think we can sit here and we could harp on what happened last week against Missouri. I hate to say it, but I kind of expected that to be the outcome. We both picked South Carolina to lose the game, unfortunately. They just hadn't given us enough to believe they would be able to go to Missouri and get the job done just based on what we'd seen so far in the season of how things haven't really come together quite yet on all fronts in all three phases. Obviously, you know that South Carolina has the talent to do that. So the question now becomes, Jack, and I feel like we have said this for the last 3 weeks, but I really do think this right here against Kentucky this weekend, South Carolina, is a massive game. And if you don't see the improvements, Jack, then where do you go from there?
Oof, that's a deep question there. If they lose this game, well, I don't know if you win another SEC game after that, because let's be honest, all of your easier games are kind of out of the way at this point. You lost to Vanderbilt, you lost to Missouri, you lost, and you'd lose to Kentucky. I mean, after that, Kendall, you have the bye week, and then you get LSU, Oklahoma, Bama, Ole Miss, and A&M. Tell me where you're winning a game there. Now, let's preface this. South Carolina typically finds a way to win a game they're not supposed to, right? 2021, they beat Florida and Auburn. I would say those are games that South Carolina probably wasn't expected to win. 2022, beat Tennessee, beat Clemson. 23, they beat – I'm trying to think back to 23 because it was kind of just a weird year. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if I can come up with an example for 23. And then last year, they beat Texas A&M at night. So,
yeah.
Point is, typically every year there's a game that Carolina can sneak away a win and come out of there with a W. But honestly, like, if they lost this game to Kentucky, I don't know. I mean, the season, not in the gutter necessarily, but like, it's hard to find wins after that because you got this game, you got Coastal, maybe Clemson, and then one of those wins you're just randomly going to get probably. I mean, I don't know. But if you do win this game against Kentucky and you play well, I think this is going to be the type of game, Kendall, where we're kind of like, well, where was this the last few weeks? Where was this offense at over the last few weeks? If they play really well on Saturday, keep in mind, they got the bye week coming up afterwards, and then they have the tough trip to LSU. The difference between winning and losing this game is just massive because I think in a lot of respects, your season is over if you do lose this game because you're 0-3 in the SEC. And it's just a very tough pill to swallow to start off this bad in the season. We know Carolina notoriously has gotten off to slow starts, but this is a game you really cannot afford to lose because I just don't know where you're finding a ton of wins after that.
You can't lose it. And if you're South Carolina, obviously you're playing at night, you're playing at home. This is massive because you are about to take on an extremely daunting schedule SEC-wise when you get into October and November. So this is so important for South Carolina. And it's not only important for them to win it, I think it's important for them to win it in a pretty decisive way. I think it's important for them to go out there and really, really get things going because if you just, inch out the win in this game, a win is a win and you'll take it regardless. But I think to instill some of that confidence that this group needs, we know the talent is there. You just need to make sure that everything can come together. That has to happen this weekend because you don't go into a game against LSU being like, okay, this is the game where, we figure it out. No, it needs to be figured out by that point. That's when it needs to be figured out before you get to those type of games. So now we're on to week 5. You can't make excuses anymore. You can't say, oh, it's early in the season. We're still figuring it out. We're still trying to decipher this from that and do X, Y, Z. And everybody knows this too. Like, I'm not saying the team is making excuses, but at this point in the game, week 5, you're taking on Kentucky at home. I know I've said it the last couple of weeks, but this is a must win for South Carolina, or else you're right, Jack. I feel like you do look at the rest of the season and you're like, how is South Carolina making something of this? I've seen people talking out there saying they're worried that South Carolina might not even make a bowl game this year.
That's a fair concern. It's a fair concern. Again, let's run through it. After this week, like let's say you win this game, you're 3-2. Well, then guess what? You have a bye week, and then you have 5 straight games against top 25 opponents in your conference. You could beat Oklahoma, I think. We just found out yesterday that John Mateer is going to be out for maybe 3 to 4 weeks with a hand injury that he just had surgery on. Knowing South Carolina and knowing their luck, would not shock me at all if that's the game Mateer is able to magically just return for and get healthy. So right now, Michael Hawkins is the quarterback for Oklahoma. South Carolina knows all about him as he started against the Gamecocks out in Norman last year and got benched after a few drives in the first quarter. So, I mean, you hope that South Carolina can maybe win that game. Maybe that's the game they win, but you're also going to get Bama probably under the lights, I would imagine. I think everyone will get up for that game, especially since it's homecoming. And then once you get into November, again, this team typically plays a lot better once you get into that month. But it's tough because you go to Ole Miss and you go to Texas A&M, and then you get Coastal at home, and then you get Clemson at home. I think you can win the final 2 games there, beat Kentucky, and then probably win either Oklahoma or Alabama and get to that 6-win mark. But maybe this is also the game, Kendall, where everything just gets rejuvenated. Remember the game against OU last year after the 2 losses where Carolina just picked it up 135-9, and that set the tone for the rest of the year? Maybe that's what we see. Carolina coming off of back-to-back losses, just like last year, has a really nice blowout win, heads into the bye week, feeling good. Everything turns around. But it's got to happen. Like, you got to play well this week for that to happen.
Absolutely. And I don't want this to come across negative. I know Jack said he's Mr. Negative. I think you and I believe I can speak for you when I say this, we still have the confidence and the belief that this team can make something out of this season. Like, I don't see this season as being over quite yet. I really didn't see South Carolina winning at Missouri, and I just kind of felt that way since the beginning of the year, before the season started, because we know how South Carolina has been against Missouri. And then obviously the Vanderbilt loss was something that a lot of people didn't see coming, but credit where credit is due to Vanderbilt. They're a good football team. So this could be a point for South Carolina where, like you said, maybe it is that moment in the season where things turn around, things change a little bit. And I think that's what they should go into this weekend looking for that to be. And that's why I think it's really important, try not to squeak out this win. Again, you'll take a win wherever you can get it, especially in the SEC, but try to do it in a way that's impressive, that's dominant, that shows, this team hasn't played up to its ability over the last few weeks. Because if you don't start to show that here, people are going to think that you've already reached your ceiling. And that's not a good thing. We know that there's a lot of talent on this team, and I think that the ceiling has not been reached yet, Jack. So the importance of this game, it really cannot be overstated. I know you talk about the end of the season, obviously finishing off the year with Clemson. I keep telling people, it could be worse, everybody. South Carolina could be Clemson right now.
It could be worse. Again, Carolina's got a lot of season left to go. If they just correct, and Shane was talking about it the other day, they got to win the turnover battle. They got to limit the penalties, make tackles. I mean, if they clean up the things that have been going wrong over the last few weeks, forget the offense. Forget the offense for the minute. Correct the things that you can correct right now without any hesitation. The missed tackles, the penalties, all that stuff. It makes a big difference this week, I think. Now, and I think the offense is taking steps in the right direction. It's just you got to get this run game figured out. You can't win being just so reliant on the boom or bust of the big plays. Like, you have to have some semblance of a run game, whether that comes through Lenoris or Faison, Attaway, whoever, Matthew Fuller, whoever that is. You got to get something going in the run game. So, me personally, if you are going to win this game, I would like to see Carolina go out here and probably rush for about 100 yards or more, at least from one guy, I think. Like, Rasul Faison 100-yard game this weekend would be awesome, because let's be honest, Kendall, I don't think he's been all that impressive. He has not lived up to the hype of waiting 8 months for him to be cleared by the NCAA. It hasn't happened yet. He ran for 5 yards this past weekend against Missouri. You got to be better. And Kentucky's a good running team. So, you can't lose in that battle this weekend. You got to win the trenches, and you got to do something a little bit more than just throwing the ball downfield.
Well, Shane Beamer spoke yesterday, and Jack, you were given a shout out earlier on the show. We talked about some of the questions you asked. So what did you ask Shane? What did he talk about? What stood out to you in his press conference yesterday, obviously previewing this week against Kentucky?
Let's see. I honestly forgot what I asked him yesterday. Let's go back.
Another day of work for Jack.
I know.
He's
I
already
know.
moved on.
Oh, here we go. I did ask, what is one thing for Saturday that you want to see fixed more than anything that you feel like could make the biggest difference in winning and losing? And this is what I talked about right before we got into this. He mentioned 6 exact things that he wants to see for South Carolina to win. And this has always been their game plan going back to that week 1 win a few years ago against Eastern Illinois. He said, that run the ball, stop the run, win the turnover battle, win the explosive play battle, play smart football, which is penalties, and then dominate the fourth quarter. So those are all things that South Carolina needs to do. And I know I asked him what's one thing, but in reality, Kendall, I don't know if one thing necessarily changes the entire dynamic of the game. Like having less penalties would be great, but then you got all these other issues, right? So I think in reality, you want to play better in all phases of the game. I mean, you have to. And it's something where you have not, like, it's been an issue for a few weeks now, and it's kind of time where you got to put up or shut up and get things right. And then I also just asked him about the biggest takeaways from the offensive play calling, and I know fans have been very critical of the play calling, and they've been frustrated by it. So I kind of just asked, what would you kind of say to the fans who feel like the offensive play calling is one of the bigger issues for this team right now? He did say the play calling was fine on Saturday, which I can kind of agree with. I don't agree with every play call they made on Saturday, but it was a lot better than it had been. But he also did say when you don't win the game, the play calling is not good enough. So, and he gets it. Like when you lose, the guys that get the most blame are the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and then the quarterback. And that's just the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone comes after Shane, Shula. People are, I think, a little bit hesitant to go after Lenoris, I would say, because he is the star of this team and they know he could be so much better. But typically, I feel like a lot of the blame does go on the head coach and the offensive coordinator. But, you got to be smarter in some situations. I think it just comes down to execution with some of the play calls. Because again, the one I talked about earlier, the 1st and goal where you have the ball at the 2-yard line and you take a sack. You get the blocking there, you get the ball out on time, that's a touchdown. We're not talking about the play in the same way as, oh my God, what a terrible play call. Instead, it's like, oh, what a great play call that was. So I think that's where South Carolina needs to be better. Is just it's not that the play calling is terrible, because I think they are getting creative out there, but it's about, okay, can you execute the play call correctly? That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think execution is huge. And then you talk about penalties and just playing smart football. And I think that has been something, you've been at all the games. I've obviously been watching all the games, and so has everybody else that tunes into this show. And I think that's been one of the most frustrating things, just from my standpoint of watching these games this year, is it's just like little things here and there that are so preventable. And you feel like once they start to add up and they're stacking on top of each other, and it's just one after another, I'm feeling defeated. Me, as someone that's not even playing, I'm feeling defeated from watching on my couch. And I would imagine it's pretty defeating if you're out there and you're actually playing in the game. So I just think it's this little thing. But what can this group do practice-wise? What can they do preparation-wise, Jack, to make sure that this isn't a problem anymore? Because it has been a huge problem for South Carolina since the beginning. Since game 1, the penalties have been an issue.
Yeah, so let's start with the penalties, because you go back to after the South Carolina State game, heading into Vanderbilt week. I remember Kason Henry, starting right tackle for the Gamecocks, talked about how there were some communication issues, how they couldn't hear some of the play calls. That's a problem right there. But I think for South Carolina, you need to be able to communicate better. That's something they have obviously worked on. But you still are getting those same issues week after week. Again, you had 6 pre-snap penalties in this game of the 14 that you had. I think it just comes down to making sure everyone's on the same page, being disciplined out there, and going out there and doing it. And the other thing that I think that I know that they're working on this week since they said it, is the tackling. I mean, again, 16 missed tackles this past weekend against Missouri. You had 10 missed tackles against Vanderbilt. And then again, you had 9 apiece against Virginia Tech, and SC State. So 44 on the year. And as I mentioned, one of those missed tackles was on the Jamal Roberts touchdown that Missouri won the game on. So you just got to be much more disciplined out there. And you got to take the right angles, and you just got to wrap up. And as Shane and these guys have said, get 11 guys to the ball. So they're working on tackling a lot more this week. I think it's concerning that you have to hear that, yeah, we're working on tackling more this week and stuff. Like, shouldn't that already be the case? And Shane said that they work on tackling a lot, more than most teams in the country, but obviously it's not leading to the type of results you need out there. So, again, you just got to do a better job of wrapping up because, boy, it can make a big difference when you're allowing these teams to convert so often on third down.
All right, Jack, before we get into it a little bit more with this weekend's game against Kentucky, we have a couple of other sponsors to give a shout out to on the show today.
Yeah, so first up, we're going to talk about Palmetto Golf and Belts. So if you love golf, you need to go check out these guys at palmettogolfing.com for the latest custom-made gear. And even if you don't play golf, Palmetto Golf and Belts is indeed a great place to go grab a gift for that favorite golfer in your life. They have a lot of custom-made gear, as I said. You got golf gloves, golf tees, golf towels, all available in the South Carolina Garnet, the cross design, the Palmetto tree and moon design, and so much more. One of the cooler things in the shop is the needlepoint belts, which are extremely well made, but also they're much more affordable than many of the others on the market out there. Palmetto Golf and Belts is operated by Brandon Cohn, a big South Carolina fan and longtime member over at GC. Our members on the Insiders Forum are loving that Brandon has the products that Brandon has in his brand new shop, and he runs special deals all the time. So head on over to palmettogolfing.com to check out his shop, support a Gamecock fan and Gamecock Central member, and get yourself some great gear. Also going to talk to you guys real quick about Ferry Chevrolet. So if you're a South Carolina fan who's interested in a new or perhaps even a used vehicle, make sure you check out our friends over at Ferry Chevrolet out in Orangeburg, South Carolina. They're led by a fourth-generation dealer in Joseph Ferry. The family-owned business over at Ferry Chevrolet has been serving the community since 1926. So 99 years now, coming up on 100, heading into 2026. It's conveniently located just off of I-26 between Columbia and Charleston. The folks over at Ferry Chevrolet are local, trustworthy, and always transparent. The business began out in St. Matthews and was built on honesty, integrity, and a handshake, and they still operate with those same principles to this day. Head on over to ferrychevrolet.com today to check out their inventory and to get in touch.
All right, Jack, a couple of closing thoughts on Kentucky, and then we will move into talking about South Carolina's conference schedule for the next couple of years before we get out of here today. So we're going into this weekend's game. We know it's an important one for South Carolina. It's at home. Where is your confidence level at right now with South Carolina and the chances they win this game?
I feel pretty good about it. I think maybe I'm a little surprised that I feel so good about it just because of everything that I've seen the last few weeks with this team. Again, they haven't given us much a reason to feel like, yeah, they can go out here and play a complete game. But I'm telling you guys, I think we're going to see that on Saturday where this team just plays so much better than what we've seen over the last few weeks. Like, Kendall, you remember that feeling? Like, describe that feeling you got when you saw, because you were at both games, what I'm talking about here, Florida 2022 versus Tennessee the following week. Mm-hmm. Describe that feeling for me real quick.
The feeling like between the games or after the Tennessee game?
Like the feeling of what you saw the week earlier versus where the heck was this over the last week?
Honestly, I was never like shocked. I think I expected more of what I saw. Now, given South Carolina scored 60 plus points in the game against Tennessee, so I wasn't expecting that, but I expected better than what I saw at Florida. So I was very disappointed in that performance. And that's how I feel about Vanderbilt. And I feel that way about Missouri as well. Just feeling disappointed. So if South Carolina comes out this weekend and plays well against Kentucky, I think I'll feel the same way that I did a couple of years ago from Florida to Tennessee, where it's like, I am not shocked by this. This is my expectation. And that's essentially my vibe going into this weekend. I'm like, my expectation is that you win because I know it's a good team. So, yeah, I was more disappointed in the week before at Florida. And then when they beat Tennessee, it was kind of like, it was a sigh of relief because it's like I knew that this was in this team. I knew they could do it. And so it's very relieving when you see it. But it's stressful when you haven't seen that in a while, or you haven't seen it yet this season, and we haven't for South Carolina. So I get it. I get the stress. I get the fans out there saying we might not make a bowl game, and this season is a wash. Like, I understand the frustration, because especially when you come in with so much hype around the team and they're not meeting your expectations, that's tough. Like, I understand that that's frustrating, but I still think it's within them. So if they win this weekend, I'm going to be like, yeah, I expected it. I'm not going to sit there and give a standing ovation. Like, so that's how it should be.
So that's why I think we're going to see this weekend. And that's why I bring it up, because it's kind of that similar feeling of like, this team has played so poorly at times over the first few weeks of the season. But the good news is, again, it's still early, and you get Kentucky, a team that I think you should beat. And I think we are going to be saying, like I said earlier on in the show, I think we are going to be getting that feeling of like, man, like, where has this been? Like, what is up with this offense? And I hope I'm right about that. I really hope I am, just because we have not seen anything remotely great so far. But there's been flashes. Like, again, the defense got some stops when they needed to. The offense showed that they can throw the ball a little bit this past weekend. But can you go out here and just dominate a game, impose your will? And if you can, you could feel so much better just about everything heading into that bye week. Like, the feeling of going 3-2 heading into the bye week, it's not great, but it's like, hey, you have done something good. Yeah. You've taken a big step in the right direction. Now, trying to figure out the right word. Not leapfrog, but catapult this into something bigger over the next few weeks, parlay it into something. So
yeah,
there's not a lot of promise and hope right now, but I think we are going to see Carolina play a lot better this weekend and kind of get that mojo back a little bit. Again, very much akin to a few years ago, 4 years ago, with the Tennessee game after Florida, but also like last year when there was so much pent up frustration from the Ole Miss and Alabama game that they kind of just took it out in that Oklahoma game, dominated. You know how the story goes after that.
I think, yeah. And I do think that there is promise and hope for this team as long as we have guys a part of this team like Lenora Sellers, like Nick Harbor. We've seen what Rasul Faison has been able to do, like these big names where that they can contribute for South Carolina. So you've got that going for you. Just put it all together now, and we'll see what happens this weekend. South Carolina taking on Kentucky at home under the lights at Williams-Brice Stadium, and it is a huge game for the Gamecocks. Okay, before we leave, last night, South Carolina's schedule for the next few years was announced in the SEC, and things are changing next season. So the conference will move to a 9-game league schedule with all 16 teams playing 3 permanent opponents and rotating out 6 teams for the next 4 years. So South Carolina's permanent opponents are Georgia, Kentucky, and Florida. What do you think, Jack? Was this what you expected?
Yes and no. I expected Georgia. I expected Kentucky. I thought maybe they would get Tennessee, but Tennessee's tough because it's like they already have the built-in rivalry with Alabama and Vanderbilt, teams like that. I'm surprised Florida wasn't Tennessee's other permanent opponent. If I'm remembering correctly, I think Mississippi State that is the permanent opponent for Tennessee. Could be wrong on that. Can't remember off the top of my head. But no, I mean, look, I like it. I like playing Georgia, Florida, and Kentucky every year. It feels like the old SEC East in a lot of ways. And next year, you're going to be getting Georgia at home. You're going to get Kentucky at home, which I know is kind of weird because Kentucky will be coming to Willie B 3 of the next 4 seasons. You won't be going back to Lexington until 2027, but then you go to Florida. And so, again, I think things are looking pretty good from that standpoint. But I'll ask you this, Kendall. There's a lot of different games on the schedule. Again, South Carolina will play every team in the SEC home and away over the next 4 years. Give me 3 games on the schedule from 26 to 29. Doesn't matter which games that you are most excited about, home or away.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. I mean, I have some bias to certain games just because I would personally be excited for them because I have family members and whatnot that went to these schools. As I'm looking at 2026, I'll give you one for each year because I do think it's hard to to bring it down. I'm excited next year home against Tennessee. I think that will be a fun one. South Carolina welcoming back Tennessee to Williams-Brice Stadium. And in recent years, Tennessee fans obviously have not liked South Carolina because of the game. And obviously it was, extremely unfortunate what happened to Hendon Hooker during the game at Williams-Brice Stadium a couple seasons ago. That was a huge bummer, but the 63 points was crazy. Like I will never, ever forget that game. So I think next season, that's the one I'm most excited about, is to have Tennessee play at South Carolina. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I think for me, 26, I'm kind of excited to go to Florida, honestly. Now, I know I've heard.
I'm not saying that.
I know.
We talked about that last week on Before the Stand, or no, GC Live. So y'all can watch that if you want to know my thoughts.
Yeah, I would say going to Florida just because I have not been there before, and that's how I'm going to answer a lot of these different years. Is that I haven't been to all the stadiums, and Florida is one of the next ones I'm going to be able to check off next season. I'm excited to go there.
Okay, I think that's fair. 2027. I look at the schedule and I think I have to say home against LSU. I want South Carolina to get some home cooking revenge off of what happened last year. So I'll go 2027 home against LSU.
For me, Carolina has not played here in so long that it's kind of just crazy. Auburn.
Yeah.
At Auburn. It's been since 2010, maybe 2011 since they played at Auburn. I know they played Auburn twice in 2010, but my goodness, I mean, it has been forever since they've gone to Jordan-Hare. So that's one road trip that I think I am super, super excited for. Beautiful campus out there, really good atmosphere. It seems like I'm looking forward to going to Auburn in 2027.
Jack, you've picked 2 away games and I've picked 2 home games. I just can't pick the away games to be my favorite ones on the schedule.
Yeah, but
I get what you're saying, though. It has been forever since South Carolina has played at Auburn.
It's crazy.
I forget that Auburn's in the SEC sometimes because South Carolina never plays them.
Exactly, because they were in the SEC West for the longest time before they got rid of divisions. It's crazy how they have not played at Auburn in that long. But yeah. Anyway, 2028.
2028. I don't know. I'm going between home against Alabama and maybe hosting Oklahoma. I don't know. What are you going with?
I'm going with another road trip. Surprise.
I'm not picking a road trip. There's no way. I'm not. Jack will pick it because he'll get to go. But yeah, I'm not picking it because I'm not happy or favoriting any SEC road trips because they're all hard.
I'll tell you what, I've been to Starkville once. I went earlier this year for baseball. Really cool environment. I want to go to Davis-Wade Stadium. I want to see the cowbells. I want to see how crazy it gets. That's another game that, again, South Carolina has, I can't even tell you the last time South Carolina has been to Mississippi State. Guys, if you're listening, help me out in the comments. But it's probably been around that same time as Auburn, right? Again, 2023, Mississippi State came here. But again, because of the divisions and stuff in the SEC and the way it used to work, Carolina and Mississippi State have not played that often. So
yeah,
that'll be a road trip that, again, should be a lot of fun. But a game that, who knows how Mississippi State's going to be by then?
I know. You never know. They are on the up and up, it appears. So good for them. That's good to see. 2029, I actually will say the game I'm probably most excited for obvious reasons, and it is an away game, is at Texas.
Yeah, I think I can go with this one too. Let's just get this out of the way as well. Forget the Missouri game. I don't want South Carolina ever going back to Missouri if they don't have to. I mean,
oh yeah, nobody's picking away at Missouri.
That place is so far away, Kendall. It's a pain because it's you fly into St. Louis or Kansas City, and then you got to drive 2.5 hours to get to Como. And Como does not feel like an SEC town. I can now confirm that, having been there. It's not up to snuff. So I'm excited for Texas, though. I hate that it's not till 2029, but I'm pumped for that.
I know. We're going to be old, Jack. We're going to be 29 years old.
Oh, don't say that, Kendall.
We're going to be knocking on the door of 30 by the time South Carolina plays at Texas. So that's fun. I'll also say Ole Miss at home just because my brother went there for law school. So I feel like that'll necessary. Be fun. And hosting Auburn will be fun. That'll be kind of a fun year, like some different teams that you don't see a lot for South Carolina, and hosting Ole Miss in 2029, hosting Auburn, and then going on the road to Texas.
That's the beauty of the schedule. It's really cool. And it's also cool for the fans, but it's also cool, like, again, with the transfer portal and the way that works now, guys don't always stay for 4 years out of school. But if they do stay at like a school like South Carolina for 4 years, they're going to get to go to all these different venues. And I think that's a really cool thing to look at moving forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like what they're doing now with 9 SEC games in a season. I think that'll be good. It'll be a tough test. It'll only make things harder. We always talk about how hard things are right now, and things are only going to get more and more challenging looking at the schedule and just seeing what's up. But South Carolina's permanent opponents there, Florida, Georgia, and Kentucky. And that's kind of what I expected, I would say. I agree. Yeah. I could have seen Tennessee in there, but this made the most sense, I think, for South Carolina. So before we leave, Jack, let's just do one last thing. We're going to plug Before the Sandstorm, of course, because we want people to tune in on Saturday. Check it out. It's so much fun. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the game against Kentucky this weekend, who we expect to stand out, final score predictions, etc. And yeah, we hope that you all join us.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Again, we will have a time when we have that figured out. Again, Kendall and I are going to debrief after the show, get it all figured out. Again, the debrief takes like 2 minutes, but anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully it'll be a good Wednesday GC Live next week,
and hopefully it'll be a good Sunday reset with Jack.
Of course, I got to get you on soon, so we will definitely have to do that soon. But yeah, no, this has been a fun show, and hopefully we're talking about a win next Wednesday. That'd be awesome.
Fingers crossed for that. Absolutely.
Head over to everyone needs it.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And it will happen. We'll speak it into existence. Head over to GamecockCentral.com for more, everybody. You can also check us out on social media at Gamecock Central. Thanks so much for joining us. We always have fun with all of you on our Wednesday afternoon. So for Jack Veltri, I am Kendall Smith. This has been GC Live here on Gamecock Central, and we'll see you soon. Bye.